Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. So we are not spending the entire show on tariffs, but we are spending
just the vast majority
of the show on tariffs. So we're going to give you the very latest. Trump made a bunch of comments yesterday, where the markets are, all that good stuff. We've also got new reporting. Apparently, Elon Musk and Scott Bessent made personal appeals to Trump. Bessent to change the messaging on tariffs, Elon Musk to change the actual reality of the tariffs. We're taking a deep dive into China's response and what that could mean for them and for us and for the world. CEO of a clothing company is joining us to break down specifically just nuts and bolts, how he's thinking about the tariffs, how it will impact his business, so we can get kind of like the granular real world impact in the sense of that. At the same time, Bibi was at the White House yesterday. Yes, Trump pushed his chair in for him. Don't worry. It was all taken care of. This comes on the same day that we learned that the Israelis killed an American citizen in the West Bank. So there's obviously a lot to discuss there. Trump also announced in that same, he wasn't calling it a press conference, whatever he called it. Anyway,
Oval Office spray.
He announced direct talks with Iran. So this comes at a time of deep concern that we could be headed towards a war. So maybe this is an off-ramp. We can all be really hopeful about that. And the Supreme Court handed the Trump administration a big win yesterday on the Alien Enemies Act. YouTuber Pisco, who happens to also be an attorney with deep knowledge of these issues, is going to join us to break down what exactly this ruling means, both for the people who are already in El Salvador and for the future of the Trump administration's use of this controversial approach. So a lot to get to, as I said in the show today.
Yes, that's right. Jam-packed. But thank you, by the way, to all of our premium subscribers. We really appreciate you. And you guys got a taste of what some of it looks like. We had our AMA yesterday where we fell for the trolling from Mr. Walter Bloomberg, who is a completely fake account. But we all lived that together live, and so that's what you're missing out on, although we did post a little bit of preview. BreakingPoints.com. If you can't afford a premium membership or anything like that, don't worry. You can just help us like and subscribe the video, or take this podcast if you're listening to it, send it to a friend. It's really helpful. Take your favorite episode. Maybe yesterday's the tariff episode. I thought that one was particularly good. As Krystal said, let's go ahead and get to the tariffs. Some major comments from Donald Trump, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, despite a lot of the cope that is out there right now. While he was in the Oval Office, here's what he had to say.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiation?
Well, we're not looking at that. We have many countries that are coming to negotiate deals with us, and they're going to be fair deals. We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor to do it, because we have been just destroyed, what they've done to our system. Sending millions and millions of cars into the U.S., but we don't have a car that's been sold to the European Union or other places, but let's go for the European Union. And it's not going to be that way. It's got to be fair and reciprocal. It's got to be fair. It's not fair. If you look at what's happening, you got to see this today. I said we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term. Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it. And Brooke Rollins and our team did a great job, and eggs are down now 79%, and they're all over the place.
Do you expect any of these deals to be made before April 9th? And secondly, there have been some mixed messages from your administration. You're talking about negotiations, and yet others in your administration are saying that these tariffs are actually permanent. What is the action?
Well, it could be. They can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations, because there are things that we need beyond tariffs. We need open borders. You know, we almost had a deal with China.
They can be permanent, or they can be held for negotiations.
They can be permanent, and they can be negotiations. Yes. That clears that up for us, Saagar.
This is part of the problem. This is why the markets are all over the place. We can go ahead and put the current screenshot of the markets. The current S&P 500 futures are up some 2.5%, and the Japanese Nikkei index rallied about 6% last night on the hopes of tariff relief. But the thing is that the message is incredibly unclear, and everybody is just completely grasping for straws, because for all of the talk of negotiation from Secretary Bessent, from Donald Trump there's also the undertone of also it may not matter at all. And what the timeline of that obviously still has massive ramifications as all of these tariffs continue to come into place. For example, if you're a country and you're watching Peter Navarro talk about the removal of reciprocal tariffs from, say, Vietnam, you really have no idea what to do. Let's take a listen to that.
When you have a country like Vietnam, let's take Vietnam. When they come to us and say, we'll go to zero tariffs, that means nothing to us because it's the non-tariff cheating that matters. Let's do Vietnam, Joe. They sell us $15 for every $1 we sell them. About $5 of that 15 is China transshipping to Vietnam to evade their tariffs.
Why don't you just go after those shippers?
They
I think
just
the
blow
thing
us
we're all
off.
trying to understand is then if there are going to be negotiations and you're saying zero is not enough, what is enough?
Zero is a small first start. Okay.
Okay, so,
what is
but
enough?
then what is enough? And let me ask you, but related to that.
But let me answer that question. Let me answer. Let's take them one at a time. We got plenty of time. So what is enough? Okay, you take any given country, they're like fingerprints. They all cheat us in a different way. So here are the things they cheat us on. Some of them engage in currency manipulation. Some of them have a hefty VAT tax. All of them dump into our markets. All of them engage in heavy export subsidies and government subsidies. All of them put up these phony technical and phytosanitary barriers to our ag products and our autos and everything in between. Many of them steal our intellectual property. A lot of them run sweatshop labor, including forced child labor. They have pollution havens. So when you say to me, Ed, what do we want from them? We want fairness.
So negotiation and zero is not enough. This is the difficulty. Now, what are we doing here? I would also point out, yes, it is true. Vietnam is a haven of transshipping. Part of the problem is that we actually told companies, we're like, don't produce in China, you should go to Vietnam.
Yeah,
that's part of the reason.
We wanted that situation.
We literally wanted that to happen because Vietnam is a much better ally to us and actually has pretty good relations. So now what? You know,
Another example of that is Apple has moved some significant portion of their iPhone manufacturing to India.
Yeah, I know.
Same reason, because they were, okay, you guys aren't happy with China.
Right.
Okay, we got it. We got it. India's an ally.
Yep.
We'll move some of our production there. India got hit by they're like 50% tariffs as well.
50% tariff, that's right.
So yeah, I mean, all of this, many of these dynamics were actually created by intentional American policy to move manufacturing out of China to other allies. And now it's like, okay, well, they're going to have huge tariffs as well. I mean, you can see from the stock market, they are clearly betting that Trump is bluffing.
Mm-hmm.
They are betting that, no, he doesn't really mean it when he says that they're, you know, permanent. And this is, by the way, according to the reporting from Jeff Stein, from Andrew Ross Sorkin, from other people who are talking to, you know, people in and around Trump's orbit, he's saying the same things publicly that he's saying privately. He's saying, no, I don't intend to roll these all back. And not only do you have Peter Navarro there who says, no, 0% tariffs, but that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You also had Trump in that press conference saying the EU had offered 0 for 0 tariffs. Mm-hmm. Also, not good enough. So I'm not sure what gives them the confidence that they feel like he's imminently going to, you know, announce 50 countries have made a deal and look at these amazing things that I won. Maybe they're right. It's certainly possible. Trump has put tariffs on and backed off, you know, in just the past few months. We have seen this all play out. But I do think the market is not pricing in enough uncertainty about how Trump may ultimately handle this, because I think he's loving all of this. I think he loves being in the, what do they call it, the catbird seat, and having all of these people have to come to him and CEOs calling him and begging for relief and trying to petition the king in all of these countries, blowing up his phone. He loves this. So, like I said, we'll see. I also think it's important to keep in mind, you know, in the same way that Trump, after he does January 6th, he basically gets away with it. He has all these criminal charges. He's found guilty of multiple felonies. He still gets elected president of the United States. He has 0 Fs to give. He thinks all these people told me I was wrong before, and they were proven wrong, and here I am, and they don't know anything. And rather than having people like, you know, serious people like Bob Lighthizer in there, he has clowns like Howard Lutnick. So he intentionally constructed a circle that was never going to tell him no on anything that he's ultimately doing. And Peter Navarro probably has a similar mindset. I mean, this is a man who was in prison for contempt for refusing to testify to Congress about, again, January 6th. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he has really emerged as the most sort of ideological, hard line pro-tariff figure within the Trump administration. And so I think, his mentality probably plays into this dynamic as well.
There's no question. I mean, Navarro also, people need to remember the origins of the first term. He was effectively banned from the Oval Office for almost a year, the first year of the Trump administration, when Trump really handed a lot of the reins over to Jared Kushner, to Gary Cohn, to a lot of those types of folks, which did everything they could to keep him out of the decision-making process. Even during COVID, there was a lot of Navarro efforts to try and to bring some manufacturing, not have so much reliance on PPE and personal protective equipment for hospitals, ventilators, things like that. Jared Kushner completely put the kibosh on that. Well, Kushner's not here this time around, neither is Gary Cohn. Trump does see a central failure of his presidency to not be able to do many of those first things in the first term. And so he wants to listen. And then second is, I have noticed this, the best way for people like Navarro and others, Bannon, et cetera, everything can be forgiven if you were willing to back him on Stop the Steal. In the two cases, those two cases I just mentioned, they literally went to jail, basically, rather than to turn and to try to testify against Donald Trump. There can really be no greater expression of literal loyalty. At the same time, what the markets are hoping and grabbing onto right now is this right here. Let's put it up there on the screen. So Secretary Bessent apparently flew to Florida to lobby Donald Trump on the tariff message over the weekend. And this explains some of the talk that we saw yesterday. Secretary Bessent urged Trump, quote, to focus his message on negotiating favorable deals or risk the stock market cratering further. Bessent, who, quote, landed with the president at White House on Marine One Sunday night, told Trump that markets would remain in peril unless he started putting more emphasis on talking about his end game with the tariffs, winning deals with other countries. So that's part of the reason at least the word negotiation has crept back up into the White House lexicon yesterday. But it's one of those where it's so muddled that people really are grasping at something I do not see right now. For example, they've said, oh, well, we've had leaders of 70 some countries call the White House. I'm like, first of all, it sounds super inefficient. But second is, how are you going to get this resolved on a reasonable enough time frame? I want people to understand the stakes. So a friend of mine, Ryan Peterson, the Flexport guy, the CEO of Flexport, he just revealed yesterday, quote, on April 17th, the U.S. Trade Representative's Office is expected to impose fees of $1.5 million per port call for ships made in China, for $500,000 to $1 million if an ocean carrier carries a single ship made in China, or even one has on order from a Chinese shipyard. Now, does anyone want to guess how many ocean containers ships were built by the United States of America last year? The answer is 0, just so everybody knows. Quote, there are actually only 23 American-made and crewed container ships in the entire world today. They are all servicing domestic ocean freight. They are, quote, tiny compared to today's megaships, and they are not even allowed to sail to overseas ports. So, what do you think is going to happen? If you make a company pay $1.5 million every time they dock, what are you going to do? You're going to dock
Go
less.
somewhere else.
Or you're going to dock once. So what does that mean? That means a lot of these smaller ports, Baltimore and a few others, see ya, longshoremen, good luck. I hope that you enjoy not working.
They'll just go to one big port.
They're going to go to LA.
Truck everything.
Even worse, what happened during COVID? Does anyone remember all of that nightmare in the port of Los Angeles?
That's what caused, in part, massive inflation.
Massive inflation. So it's like you can see this stuff coming from a mile away. And guess what? Guys, that's coming in 9 days. Does anybody think that is going to be solved in 9 days? And this is a country, China, which has actually called our bluff multiple times. We're about to talk about this in a little bit on China. I think what I would really hope everybody from this show can take away is to get away with the boomer mindset of these are some backwards countries. No. We are dealing with a hyper sophisticated global powerhouse, one that has levers of power that we could only dream of in the United States of America. And so when I look at this, and then I see the president talking about a 104% tariff that is going to be applied not only on all Chinese goods, but then this $1.5 million port call, I am looking at a literal mass explosion of supply chain disruption disruption, COVID level supply side inflation, and then also, do we not want more union worker jobs, not just in Los Angeles? I want them in Baltimore. Right over here.
That's right.
They're gonna skip it.
Yeah.
And no one's gonna say, oh, you're giving into the Chinese. Guys, again, the problem is we have not spent any money building ships or boosting our shipyard industry for 35 years. They have been pouring money they beat us just because they paid for it. We can't just come in at the very last minute and be like, oh, sorry, all 35 years of rectifying decisions or, bad decisions and all of that, we expect all of this stuff to over. Do you know how long it even takes to build a ship? I beg people to go and look at these things. I took a trip once down to the Panama Canal. You can't even wrap your head around how big some of these mega container ships are.
Yeah.
Some of them are so big, they still can't fit through the canal.
Wow.
That's what we're talking about.
Insane. Yeah, and I mean, listen, you're still also relying on capitalists to take a look at that, state of affairs and be like, oh, that makes me really want to manufacture in the U.S. And first of all, as we've discussed ad nauseum at this point, with the on again, off again, this guy's a madman, the next administration may do something totally different. No one is going to, and also courting a global recession. A lot of big investments don't really get made in when you have a recessionary environment. And, the chaos of it means that, everybody is just going to freeze into place. So when you don't pair it with any sort of concerted government spending and directed effort at industrial policy to, strongly encourage the capitalists to do the thing you want them to do, then you are unlikely to get the results that you want because you can't just wave a magic wand and suddenly there are a bunch of American container ships. Yes. Also, with regard to that, I saw that yesterday, and it also triggered for me, okay, well, that does not seem like an administration that is ready to back off of their maximalist, tariff protectionist position. Mm-hmm. That seems like an administration, like a president, who is all in on this direction. So, again, look, maybe the Wall Street people, maybe they're going to be right. Maybe they're going to prove Jeff Stein wrong for once. By the way, there were people in Jeff Stein's timeline yesterday who were like, thank you, I saw you in Breaking Points and I listened to you and I saved a bunch of money by, moving things around or taking money out of the stock market, et cetera. But maybe this time Jeff Stein is going to be wrong and the Wall Streeters are going to be right. But I don't know where they're getting their confidence. Couple last things. We have Larry Fink. He sounded off about how, he thinks very likely we are already in a recession. This is the CEO of BlackRock. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he has to say.
Are we headed for a recession? Are we in a recession?
Most CEOs I talk to would say we are probably in a recession right now.
Right now.
Right now.
And it's not just him. So he says not just him, most CEOs I talk to think we are in a recession right now. You can rest assured this is a man who talks to a lot of CEOs. Let's put this, CNBC did their polling of the CEOs that are in their network. One CEO said this is the Trump recession with tariff price increases, job losses coming. And a majority of the CEOs that they reached out to, 69%, expect a recession. 3/4 of those CEOs expect a recession to be moderate or mild, so they're not saying Great Depression kind of thing, but rather than severe. But, this still is an extremely pessimistic view of the economy and directly attributable to the policy decisions of Donald Trump.
Yes, and this also, what now? You might say, don't you hate BlackRock and all these other people? Yeah, but guess what? They are the market. Larry Fink literally is the market. Yeah. So we should listen to because again, you may not like these people. You may like to see them cry, and I think that's great, as long as it doesn't affect you. But the problem is, in the way that our world is set up today, specifically our country, our capital markets, those people, when they say there's a recession, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's right. Those people are going to go from 10 billion to 5. You're going to go from, -5 to -5,000. And that's a lot more dismaying for a lot of people that are out there. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.